Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, distinguished guests, and of course, graduands, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the SAMS UHI 2023 graduation ceremony. Graduation is a great opportunity to celebrate the success of each academic cohort as they prepare to leave us to enter the world of work or further study. This is perhaps uniquely true for our current cohort of graduands, given the difficulties they encountered by the enforced shutdown of on-site teaching and learning by the COVID-19 pandemic. Your studies were impacted in ways that none of us could ever have imagined a few years ago. So the congratulations on your success are even more heartfelt this year. Our graduation has evolved much over time. In our first graduation, only 3 students were awarded degrees, and the event was comfortably hosted in the conference room at SAMS. For a number of years, the ceremony was held in a marquee on the SAMS site. However, the weather gods can only be kind for so long. So more recently, we've moved and taken advantage of these rather grand surroundings of the Algartia Gathering Halls here in Oban. The last 2 decades of educational activity at SAMS has had a transformational effect on SAMS, moving us from a completely research-focused organisation to a much more diverse and outward-looking institution. The magnitude of the change in SAMS is reflected in the combined student cohort of undergraduate and postgraduate students, now exceeding the number of staff on site. However, in comparison to almost all other institutions delivering similar courses, we maintain small student numbers and close access to the research environment. This is at the very core of our teaching ethos and very much part of what makes SAMS unique. It is therefore important to benchmark ourselves against other programmes, and to this end, we take part in Guardian University rankings for the UK within the Earth and Marine Sciences subject area. Courses are graded on the basis of student satisfaction and their value added, a measure that compares degree results with entry qualifications to evaluate teaching effectiveness. We are very pleased in current Guardian University rankings, our marine science degree continues to be ranked overall first in Scotland in the Earth and Marine Sciences category and remains among the top courses in the UK as a whole. At the start of August, we were also delighted to receive the results from the Postgraduate Taught Experience Survey 2023. UHI's courses, including the ACES programme at SAMS, were ranked first for overall satisfaction in Scotland and third in the UK out of 101 participating universities. Environmental science now has a higher profile than ever before. The single BBC documentary in 2017 elevated marine plastic pollution from a side issue to one of the major public environmental concerns. The term climate emergency was only coined in 2016, but is now part of mainstream thinking. We are all very aware of the wildfires that raged and continue to do so in Greece, Canada, and Hawaii, to name a few this summer. The marine environment is not immune to these elevated temperatures. And while our small part of the west coast of Scotland can sometimes seem protected from the worst climate-related impacts earlier this summer, data from the European Space Agency indicated that significantly elevated water temperatures were generating a marine heatwave around our coasts. Elevated temperature events are associated with both harm to marine life that is adapted to lower temperature and potentially with intense and harmful weather patterns. Such events are not expected, and SAMS has been at the forefront of relevant research, with Professor Michael Burrows having published several high-profile research papers on the subject. It is often said that more is known about the surface of the moon than about the deep sea. Recently, various billionaires competed to get the most media coverage of their incredibly expensive trips into space, and images of colliding neutron stars from the GOTO observatory captured the public imagination. However, the ocean also offers many equally magical sights, along with an array of mineral and biotechnological resources. Scientists from multiple disciplines must communicate with the media, policymakers, as well as the public, to ensure the appreciation and sustainable use of the oceans. We endeavour to teach our students skills of so we hope some of you will be at the forefront of this effort. many tedious journeys from our lives. And I say this as someone who once travelled to Estonia for a half-day meeting. Not something I'd do now, I assure you. However, we still need to understand how best to use these tools. Online meetings and workshops now fill any gaps in a scientist's calendar, these markedly reducing our carbon footprint. And it's appropriate that as environmental scientists we set the lead in such approaches. However, this has to be tensioned against the thinking time provided by that train journey to the airport. This was of no small value. Moreover, the spark of scientific insight that often comes from that chance conversation over coffee in the bar with a colleague from another institution or even another continent cannot be replicated as we sit at our computers in different time zones. On top of this, the benefits and challenges of the rapid development of artificial intelligence are only just beginning to be considered in teaching, research, and society as a whole. It is likely that the world of work, be it as a scientist or in some other field, will be very different in years to come for today's graduates. But we trust that you have the skills and environmental understanding to meet this challenge head on. It's very pleasant for the core education team and other senior staff to bask in the reflected glory of days like this, but delivering our education activity is very much a SAMS-wide activity. An excellent example of someone who is critical to both our research and teaching is today's mace bearer, Dr. Richard Abel. Rich has been a support scientist at SAMS since 2008, specialising in trace metal and carbon and nitrogen analysis. He contributes widely to the degree, particularly engaging the students through the leadership of the H1 chemistry module, and is known for his very engaging practical classes that most of today's graduates will have enjoyed. A common theme in most, if not all, of the areas of science that I've mentioned is the participation of graduate students undertaking research-based studies for Masters and PhD awards. Research is becoming increasingly directed by government and industry to specific problems, and while the profile of environmental science is increasing, the funding is not. But it remains critical to continue to generate new knowledge and understanding to apply to such projects, and hence graduate students and the academic freedom that they enjoy is becoming more and more crucial to the generation of fundamental scientific understanding. In the past, many PhD students struggling to complete their thesis have stated their frustration of how difficult it was to ring-fence a number of undistracted months to produce their thesis. Superficially, the COVID pandemic offered just this opportunity, time shut in your room with nothing to do but think deep thoughts and write up. However, this proved to be far from the case. Undertaking a PhD can be a lonely experience at the best of times, and the enforced isolation enhanced this for many students, clearly demonstrating the value of face-to-face scientific collaboration and discussions, even if only to offer moral support. It is testament to all our new doctors and postgraduate students today that they stuck it out to the end of their studies to produce their theses. Graduands, I know that your time at SAMS will have hugely deepened your understanding of the marine environment. Indeed, the breadth of the course you have completed means that you will have a wider knowledge of marine science than most, if not all, of the staff. Graduates such as yourselves are uniquely qualified to go out into the world and to be stewards of the marine environment and to ensure that sustainable management is not forgotten in the race to the bottom of profile and wealth creation. That may seem a heavy burden, and perhaps it is, but those of you that decide to take it on, I'm sure will do so admirably. None are more qualified than you for the job. What you have gained here at SAMS, on top of what I hope was an enjoyable 4 years, is the ability to think in logical terms, to learn new things, evaluate their significance, and to synthesize and present information in such a way that others take notice of your opinions. Such skills will last you a lifetime. You have all enriched the SAMS family in your time with us, but have now reached a time of decision and change in your lives. New adventures await, and most, if not all of those in the audience are envious. Embrace the new challenges and remember SAMS fondly as you do. So now to move on to the next part of our ceremony, the address from the SAMS Director, Professor Nick Prinz.
Hermione, thank you very much for those very kind and generous words for everybody. Deputy Principal and family and friends of graduands, colleagues here, but first and foremost graduands. It's what I'm about to say is a bold statement perhaps, but I think I've got the best job in the world. And what's not to like about it? I spend most of my time at least dealing with something to do with the sea. My office overlooks the sea, for one thing. But actually thinking of sea is actually what I see right now is I just see a sea of smiling faces. And that's one of the great things about this job, actually, is this day, this graduation day. I, for one, really look forward to graduation day because it is an occasion when you see just happy people. And that's what you are. You're looking back at me, this sea of faces, all smiling. Next time you go to an airport and go to an arrivals hall, you're not going to see many people crying. They might be crying with joy, but actually that's what I'm seeing here. I'm just seeing a very, very happy community of people that just really is really enjoying themselves because it is a really joyous day. It's a day of celebration. And so I'm seeing all these faces here, but I also know that there are lots of people online out there. So we have 3 groups of people here actually graduating. So we've got our undergraduates, we've got our master's students, many of whom are online. So welcome from wherever you are, and we know they're across the world, as well as our PhD students. And it's a really joyous occasion certainly for all of you, but also actually for us, and which is, as I say, is one of the reasons why I really enjoy today. It seems like it's part of the human condition, isn't it, I think, to actually want to celebrate momentous occasions, sort of the start or the end of something. Throughout life, there are lots and lots of examples. And a graduation ceremony is one of those points in time. It's a celebration, but it's marking, the passage of time and the beginning and the end of something. But yes, it is the end of something. It is the end of something. But it's not really an end, is it? And I know it's a bit of a cliche, but many of you will, I'm sure, know of the famous sort of part of one of Winston Churchill's speeches when he said, actually, no, this isn't the end. It's not even the beginning of the end. I think, a bit like Churchill was talking about, graduation is perhaps the actual beginning of the next phase of your lives. So yes, it's marking the end of your time here, perhaps with us, but actually it's a massively important part of the start of the next phase of your lives. It's a bit like two sides of a coin. You've got the one coin, but you've got 2 sides to it. That's what it's a bit like. And it's also like, if you think of a racetrack. Don't know how many of you have ever raced around a racetrack. I used to do that as a youngster, when I was a student, actually. And in the old-fashioned tracks, the start line is exactly where the finish line is. So you've got the start and the finish of this race in the same place. And so it's a kind of a graduation it's a bit like that. And so all of you graduands, you've been on a race, actually. But it's not been a sprint, has it? No, it hasn't been a sprint. You've had to show enormous amounts of commitment and determination and patience. And that's been splendid. And particularly, as Bhavani has already mentioned, you've had a torrid time of it through COVID. Nobody could have predicted that. And I can't imagine what it must have been like to be a student during that time. I mean, we did what we could to help, but what we couldn't do is we could not change the experience that you were going through. And so, well done for all of that. And so generally, just in general terms, that's why we're all here on this side of the hall to congratulate all of you. And that's what makes it a really fantastic part of the job. But through all of this, all of you graduates, you actually haven't been alone. You might have felt like it at times, but you haven't been alone. And the faces that I see smiling, actually, are those around you who've been the people who've supported you through all of this. So all your family and friends, they've been behind you and supporting you. We've supported you as much as we can, but actually the people in front of me here who are all making up these smiling faces, These were the people that really helped you to get to this point. And so we're going to be, we will be soon all applauding you, all these people behind you that have been helping you throughout the last few years. They'll be applauding you. I think this is your opportunity, all you graduands, and we'll join in with you. But I think for you graduands, I think you should actually applaud all of the people that helped you, and some of them are here. So please join your hands together and actually help and applaud the people who have helped you. You'll be getting plenty of applauses yourself, so that's perfectly fitting, I think. Now, some of you will know that actually one of my personal interests is the history of oceanography and marine science, and SAMS has got a fantastically long history, which I won't go into. I mean, much as if I had half an hour, I might sort of bore you with a little bit of that. But actually, one of the things that I came across recently was our founder, John Murray. So John Murray, he was the first director of what became SAMS. I'm very fortunate to have been the 10th director. There was a building, the main building was opened in Millport on the island of Cumbrae in the Clyde estuary. And on the occasion of the opening of that building, in John Murray's speech, he actually said, well, we are in an age of ideas and an age of seeking and finding, the like of which the world had not hitherto seen. And I think that's quite interesting, but I think he was quite wrong, actually, because we're still like that, actually. We're in this world still of ideas and seeking and finding, and you've been part of all of that. But actually, you graduands, you are about to go off and seek and find the like of which you've never seen, the next phase of your lives. You're going to be finding something. You're going to be sort of looking for careers and jobs, perhaps. And so that takes me right back to the beginning of one of the first things I said here, and that is about having the best job in the world. What I would hope is that you can find that, whatever that might be. And there's one key thing that will help you find that, and that is just passion. And if you can find something, and I hope you can, that you're passionate about, then what you can do is, as I'm very fortunate to be able to say, is on a Monday morning when you wake up, you go, yes. And I wish you all that. I wish you all that. We all do. So seek out your passions. Really, all we can say now is well done again. It's been a tremendous privilege to be able to help you to get to where you are now, all of you. And we're very proud of you. Congratulations, well done, and travel well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nick. And just to echo, graduation for me is also a really special day. As head of fourth year, I see all of you at the start, so that will be Monday coming for those that are starting this coming fourth year. And it's lovely to see you go through this journey. And the same with the postgrads. You know, I start with you on day one, and we see you right through to the end. And to be here is really, really special. Our next speaker today is Professor Neil Simcoe, the Deputy Principal Academic and Research of the University of the Highlands and Islands. Neil, I invite you to come forward and deliver the 2023 Principal's Address.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's really good to be here amongst you for this wonderful day. And indeed, I'm delighted and honoured to be joining with you today as we gather for this special celebration of the success and achievements of the class of 2023. It's just fantastic to be here for such a wonderful occasion and to celebrate the culmination of a remarkable academic and personal journey for all of you, our extraordinary students. Today is our opportunity to celebrate with you and recognise your endeavours with your tutors and lecturers friends, family, and supporters. It's been quite a year, hasn't it? The pace of change and challenge at international, national, local, and personal levels doesn't seem to let up, even with the global pandemic now, hopefully, more or less behind us. That's why I'm standing here before you with immense pride, thinking about everything you've achieved in the face of so many obstacles. And this afternoon I want to share with you a personal reflection about the power of education. My academic background is not in marine science, but in education. All of you are highly educated people who quite rightly, no doubt, feel proud of your educational endeavours and your learning and your achievements. But perhaps what is even more important than the learning is how we use that learning. As Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the 18th century philosopher, says, to live is not to breathe, but to act. It is to make use of our organs, our senses, our faculties, of all the parts of ourselves which give us the sentiment of our existence. The man who has lived the most is not he who has counted the most years, but he who has felt life. My invitation to you today is to use all that you have learned in your studies to act, for it is acting that we live. And when I say all that you have learnt, I don't only mean the new knowledge that you have acquired, but the way in which your experiences as a student have in part framed the person that you are today. There is no doubt that education is powerful, both for us as individuals and societies throughout the world. And the opportunity to use that power for the benefit of ourselves, our communities, and our society is an immense privilege. Perhaps at the current time, this is more true than ever when we look at the profound challenges in our world. Some of the challenges, of course, as environmental scientists, you will be passionate and not both passionate and knowledgeable about. The challenge of climate change, building toward a net zero world, the terrible war in Ukraine and the changing geopolitical environment in the world, the impact of the rising cost of living, the opportunities and risks associated with AI, and the legacy of COVID on the mental and physical health of millions of people. I suppose the question is, how can the power of education be brought to bear on these immense challenges? Whether this is the individual using acquired knowledge, skills, and understanding in their job in the community, or the deployment of new research insights, some of which I know come from SAMS, to tackle climate change, or indeed the deployment of skillful diplomacy to discriminating and using all of my educative experiences over many years, and I have enormous gratitude for all those who have enabled me to acquire new knowledge, experience, and understanding. And I include in that sentence very much my colleagues here at SAMS and the interactions that we've had over the last almost 14 years now of a tenure that I've had. But in short, life is for living, and education is the fuel for life. Today, as we celebrate with you, our students, we not only acknowledge your academic achievements, but also the resilience you have demonstrated during challenging times. The events of the past few years have tested us all, and yet we emerge stronger, united, and determined to face the future with unwavering resolve. I offer my personal and heartfelt congratulations to each one of you. You're a testament to the power of education and the limitless potential of the human spirit. As you embark on the next chapter of your lives with knowledge, passion, and determination, I have no doubt that you will make a positive impact on the world around you. Many congratulations again. Nisha, a Gaelic cudrimoch don olhai, agus hamiadola leivug nam faclan official sa Gaelic agus sa viola. Gaelic's important to the University of the Highlands and Islands, and on this wonderful day I'm going to read the formal words to open the ceremony both in English and in Gaelic. Aran enim olhai na Gaeltacht agus na Yellen, agus fo uctalus na Colia Academicoch, hami occur and keel guvel in televis show as in Caimnanen agus Chesterton Academicoch ein Fosculture. In the name of the University of the Highlands and Islands and by the authority of the Academic Council, I declare this ceremony for the award of degrees and academic distinctions to be open.
Thank you very much, Neil. And it takes me back actually to my own undergraduate graduation, where the ceremony was delivered both in Welsh and in English. So hearing in Gaelic is lovely. Thank you. So we now move to the bit you've really all been waiting for, the degree awarding ceremony. I can see the smiles on your faces. So we will begin with the postgraduate degrees. I will now invite each of our graduands to step forward to receive their degree award, and I will also give the title of their research dissertation. And I ask Neil and Nick to help me with this. So first are the PhD awards. Christian Pierce Armstrong for the thesis entitled Assessing Dynamic Seabed Change on the Scottish Continental Shelf, Doctor of Philosophy. To Elise Natalie DePore for the thesis entitled Optimizing the Decommissioning of Pipeline Protection Structures in the North Sea, Doctor of Philosophy. Eleanor Ford for the thesis entitled Aquaculture and the Concept of Social License to Operate. What are the current social barriers to the development of finfish aquaculture in Scotland? Doctor of Philosophy. To Julie Roston for the thesis entitled The Future Social Implications of Seaweed Cultivation for Bioenergy Production, Doctor of Philosophy. To Guy Trimby for the thesis entitled Bioprospecting for Novel Marine Polysaccharides for the Life Sciences, Doctor of Philosophy. We have 2 degrees being awarded in absentia today. The first one is to Jennifer Laura Cocking for the thesis entitled Surveillance of the Marine Environment for Beached Plastic Debris Using a Novel Hyperspectral Shortwave Infrared Camera on an Uncrewed Aerial Vehicle, Doctor of Philosophy. And the second one is for Maria de Fatima Gianella Zapata for the thesis entitled Assessing the Risk to Aquaculture from Harmful Algal Blooms, Doctor of Philosophy. Now we move to the Masters of Research. Robert David Carr Grissenthwaite for the thesis entitled Establishing Land Tank Cultivation of Asparagopsis taxiformis in Scotland. And we have 1 degree being awarded in absentia, and that's for Yash Pardasani for the thesis entitled Survival Potential of Microalgae for Long-Term Space Missions. Our Masters of Science in Agriculture, Environment and Society students are unable to join us in person today, but some have managed to join online. The following students are being awarded their Masters of Science. I'll read them all out for you. So we have Mariam Adra, Anush Arakali, Emma Barbier, Yanalise Cantelo-Vila, Brendan Davis, Rido Gurning, Nisha Higgins, Joel Javid, Helda Kizakudan Sajiv, Andrea Lopez Mobilia de Bustamante, Christiana Maple, Catherine Mawson, Mohammed Fazal Mohammed Darlan, Rowena Mondonedo, Peter Ozagbovo, Krishna Paudel, Steffi Reggie, Shristi Saha, Joyshri Sarkar, and Rafia Tuli. Please can we give them a big round of applause. Next are the undergraduate degrees, and we will start with undergraduate degree awards of Bachelor of Science, Honours, Marine Science. Kira Burse. Samuel George Costello. No problem. Neve Ditchfield. Fiona Heather Dunlop. Jennifer Elizabeth Dunn. Carla Susan Hewitt. Anna Karmaseva. Helen Elizabeth Keogh. Pauline Michelle Lean Martin. Reka Marion Marton. Anna Sophie Fortner. Marco Sanderson. Jonathan Daniel Taylor. Gaetano Vitale. Gloria Vázquez Vivas. And to Teresa Zvonikochova. We have one student graduating in absentia with a Bachelor of Science Honours Marine Science, and that's Oriana Esther Katie Willits. Next, we move to Bachelor of Science Honours Marine Science with Arctic Studies, Chloe Caitlin Dyson. Vela Rose Legay Grigg. And to Hamish Roger. Next, we move to Bachelor of Science Honours Marine Science with Oceanography and Robotics, to Jana Bruns. And to Annika Sperling. We have the following students graduating in absentia with a Bachelor of Science, Marine Science, Theo Andrews and Joshua Fraser. We also have the following students graduating in absentia with a Diploma of Higher Education, Foundations of Marine Science. Ronan Boyle, Daniel McFarlane, Craig Robinson Mackey, Cameron Stewart, Emmy Viola Vickman. That brings to a close the degree awarding part of our ceremony. Please put your hands together once more for all our graduates. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Neil. We now move to the prize giving, where we recognise the outstanding achievements of our students. I would like to invite our keynote speaker, Dr. Hermione Cockburn, to present the following awards. Our first award is the Johanna Failing Memorial Prize. This prize is awarded for the best published paper by a PhD student in the last year. And I'm delighted that the recipient is actually one of my own students in recognition of his work on Arctic benthic communities. So I'm pleased to invite Ivan Cotain to receive the Johanna Failing Memorial Prize. Next, we move to the best dissertation on the ACES Master's Programme. The recipient, Peter Osogbovo, is a worthy winner of this prize. He gained the highest mark for the ACES dissertation module and has been an exceptional student throughout the degree programme. Peter was also selected to be the programme representative for ACES STAR at the Erasmus Mundus Association. His enthusiasm throughout the programme was infectious. As Peter is unable to join us, the award will be received on his behalf by the ACES course leader, Elizabeth Cotier-Cook. Our next award is the SAMS Council Award for Academic Excellence, and this year is being awarded to Oriana Willets. Oriana has been an exceptional student through her degree, consistently achieving A grades. Her passion for the field is evident from her enthusiastic interaction within modules and insightful presentations. We wish her well in her chosen field. As Oriana is unable to join us, the award will be received on her behalf by the Marine Science Programme course leader, John Howe. The next prize is the SAMS Award for Overall Achievement. This student joined the degree and made a good impression with their knowledge of sharks and skate, and their encyclopedic knowledge of fish was driven by their love of sport fishing. In their final year, the student used autonomous underwater vehicle surveys to reveal the location of previously suspected flapper skate nurseries, and there is hope to turn this work into a scientific publication. This year, the SAMS Award for Overall Achievement goes to Jonathan Taylor. The next award is the Tim Boyd Prize for Polar Science. The prize recognises significant achievement in the field of polar research. This year's winner is a student who was able to work competently and consistently in the lab, often independently, as her supervisor spent several months in the Antarctic. Her data has provided us with new insights into how snow algae grow and metabolically function. This year's prize is being awarded to Vela Grigg. Graham Shemield Prize for Biogeochemistry is awarded in the name of our previous director, who had the vision to develop our teaching programme at SAMS. This year, we are delighted to make the award to one of our previous undergraduate students, who also continued his studies with us and successfully defended his PhD earlier this year. The Graham Shemield Prize for Biogeochemistry goes to Christian Armstrong. We now move to the award of the SAMS UHI Student of the Year. Anna Fortner has been on a journey during her time at SAMS, but one which has seen her confidence grow hugely, especially through the SAMS Student Ambassador Scheme. While studying for her degree, she wrote student blogs about applying for the marine science degree, in which she showcased the warm, welcoming, and supportive family feel we are proud of at SAMS. Anna's passion for SAMS, marine science, and supporting the next generation into the field is noticeably clear. Hearing her talk passionately about SAMS as an institution and about careers and exciting research in marine science to younger people is really inspiring. The SAMS UHI Student of the Year award goes to Anna Fortner. Concludes our prize giving, and we now move to the keynote address. Our speaker is Dr. Hermione Cockburn. Hermione is the Scientific Director of Dynamic Earth in Edinburgh, the UK's only science centre dedicated to the Earth story. In 2020, she was awarded an OBE for services to public engagement in science. Recently, she led a major ocean literacy project about Scotland's deep sea. She has presented science radio and television programmes for the BBC, including series like Coast, Rough Science and Fossil Detectives. She is a Fellow of the Royal Society of Edinburgh and the Royal Scottish Geographical Society, so we are delighted to have her with us today to deliver our keynote address. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Hermione Cockburn.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's my great pleasure to have been asked to address you today at this really wonderful occasion. I tell you, I am sort of like feeling very emotional. It is very emotional sitting there, and watching you all come up and collect your degrees. And now, as I look out and see you all from this vantage point, I just feel an overwhelming sense of admiration. You know, for any graduate, this day is really momentous. And believe me, it's going to stay seared in your memories for decades to come. But as Professor Simcoe expressed, you, the class of 2023, you have had to dig really deep into your reserves. You've had to adapt and flex as COVID took its toll at your precious time at university. And for you to have remained focused on this day and to succeed in the face of all that, you really do deserve special mention. I know I'm echoing what the other speakers have said, but it is that overwhelming feeling that we've all got for you. You really deserve that special mention. So I take my hat off to you, absolute to you all, and to everyone here today who has guided you, taught you, supported you, as all your hard work has come to fruition. You're graduating today armed with something that I don't think I had. You have got very high levels of resilience, and that is going to stand you in good stead. I drove over from Edinburgh today, and it's very nice to be back in Oban, I have to say. I come here fairly regularly, but it did remind me on the way over today of the first time that I came over to this part of the world, and that was to take part in an oceanography field trip as a first-year student at Edinburgh University. And this was an optional oceanography course that I took to complement the first part of my geography degree. And I didn't really realise it at the time, but That experience of heading out from the shore on a boat and dropping those clever sample bottles, you know, the ones that you drop down and they collect water at different depths, that gave me a little tiny bit of the magic and the special powers that you now have. You are qualified scientific experts and those natural academic inhabitants of the marine environment. You inherently understand the critical role of the ocean as our planet's life support system. And that ocean literacy that you have and that you have enriched so much in your time here at SAMS can never be taken away from you, and it will shape your thinking. Whether it shapes your career or not, that's another matter, but it will absolutely shape your thinking and your contribution from now on. To slightly paraphrase Sylvia Earle, as a society, we should be prioritising and protecting our ocean as though our lives depend on it, because of course they do. They all do. All of our lives depend on the ocean. Now, as a mere geographer who graduated, 30 years ago now, it's taken me far too long to actually fully grasp that. So please don't ever underestimate your expertise that is of such incredible value to determining the future of all life on Earth. Now, as you heard a little bit from Bhavani there, I've spent my career in and out of research and public engagement, and I'm currently the Scientific Director of Dynamic Earth in Edinburgh. And for those of you that don't know, Dynamic Earth is a science centre, it's a planetarium, and we are an environmental science education charity. And my team and I work with people of all ages and all backgrounds to empower them with understanding and empathy for the Earth. Why the understanding and the empathy? Well, because understanding alone is often just simply not enough to encourage people to live more sustainably or to advocate for the Earth or even to choose what you have done, which is to pursue a scientific educational path and therefore empower yourself to be an active part of the solutions to the big environmental challenges we face. Feelings and emotional connectivity are just a huge part of any successful and meaningful public science engagement. Hence, that's why our charitable mission tries to do both. Now, throughout my career in this field, I have looked for ways, lots of different ways, to try and reveal the fascinating world of science that you all inhabit, to blur the boundary between science and the wider public, and to find the stories that help me to do that effectively. And recently, I have been immersed, as you just heard, as Bhavani kind of gave away, but I have been immersed in the most wonderful of stories. A story that begins with Scottish scientists and Scotland's seas and underpins our whole understanding of the ocean. So I'm sure many of you have now guessed that I'm talking about the story of the Challenger expedition that set off 150 years ago, last December, to explore the global ocean. And that story begins here in Scotland, with Edinburgh-based scientist Sir Charles Wyville Thomson and his pioneering early excursions on board HMS Porcupine and HMS Lightning, apparently awful, creaky old ships, off the north and the west coast of Scotland in the 1860s. And he dredged and he trawled and he gathered astonishing and surprising data about the deep sea environment. Then, alongside John Murray, who we were hearing about earlier, who's so closely associated with the origins of your prestigious institution, Wyville Thomson used his data from Scotland to instigate the very first comprehensive scientific exploration of the ocean on board HMS Challenger that set off in 1872. Now, the expedition took almost 4 years to circumnavigate the globe, and it was trying to really find out 4 key scientific objectives. And it was equipped with the latest technology from the day. Challenger was actually the very first ship to be specially adapted for science, and they quite literally took 100 miles of rope. They didn't know how deep the ocean was in certain parts, so they took 100 miles and hoped that that would be enough. Of course it was, but that's the kind of level of technology that they had available to them at the time. And the things that they were trying to find out, well, they were trying to investigate the physical conditions of the deep sea, such as depth, temperature, circulation, light penetration, and specific gravity. They were trying to determine the chemical composition of seawater from the surface to the bottom, including things like organic matter and particles in suspension. They were mapping and analysing seabed deposits and the sources of those deposits and building up the first map of the ocean floor. And Wyville Thomson was a marine biologist, and his particular interest was investigating life throughout the ocean and across the deep sea floor. Now, if there's anything in that list from 150 years ago that doesn't overlap in one way or another the things that you've been working on and learning, then I would be quite surprised, because Challenger was for the first time the whole ocean package, which is why it's often regarded as the foundation of your science. The expedition resulted in 50 volumes of scientific reports, an endeavour that took 23 years to complete. It's always the same. I mean, in geography, as with your science, probably, the fieldwork is the fun part. Writing up and publishing takes much, much longer. So that was 4 years versus 23 years. A full set of those absolutely beautiful illustrated reports resides in the SAMS library, and the data within them is a benchmark for much of our understanding about the physical and biological characteristics of the ocean. And of course, it gives that opportunity to use that benchmark and can use it to see how the ocean is responding to human-induced environmental change. And that's been exemplified by publications from SAMS researchers quite recently. So at Dynamic Earth, then, we have taken that really compelling scientific and historic heritage, and with funding from the National Lottery Heritage Fund and other generous people, we've used it as the foundation for a science engagement project called Discover the Deep. Back in Edinburgh, we've built a new exhibition, so if you're passing through, do come and see it. And we've delivered a Scotland-wide public science engagement programme, and that's all about building levels of ocean literacy in different groups of people and engaging them with your world, helping people to understand and marvel at contemporary scientific exploration of the sea. Incidentally, the project officer that I employed for that, a wonderful, wonderful person called Blair Watson, who I worked with very closely for 2 years. He was enthusiastic, he was knowledgeable, and he had a degree just like you from here at SAMS, and he sat here in 2017 graduating. So that was just really a lovely connection between the project and you here today. Now, in Discovering the Deep, we tried particularly hard to raise awareness and appreciation of the stunning but very little known cold water coral ecosystems in the North Atlantic, such as those found off the coast of Mingulay and out around places like the Hebrides Terrace Seamount. We also tried to engage people with crucial questions about the effects and threats that the ocean faces from human activities, such as deep sea mining, deep sea drilling, ocean acidification. And we've also tried to show people what being a scientist looks and feels like, whether that's a deep sea ecologist, a coastal fisheries expert, or a marine robotics engineer. It's been an incredible journey for me to be working at the interface of your world, marine scientific research, and public audiences. I never knew half of what is now in that exhibition back in Edinburgh in Discover the Deep. And I just want to use this platform to say thank you to everyone at SAMS who supported that project with interpretation, outreach, and who personally actually feature in the exhibition. You'll have to come and see it, and then you'll see what I mean. Despite taking place 150 years ago, there are many lessons we can take from that pioneering spirit of Challenger. The scientific advances that resulted from it were based on approaches that remain entirely relevant today. Wyville Thomson and his team used a multidisciplinary approach, a highly innovative and collaborative approach, and it was a data-driven approach. And these are the ways in which today we can still maximize the scale and the impact of scientific research. And if that's what your future holds, then please consider keeping those as guiding principles to the way that you work as you go forward. Another key feature of Challenger was that those involved knew the power of publicity. They used it to their advantage to get the funding in the first place, take note, and importantly, they shared their findings as they went along. and they ensured that the general public knew that that expedition was going on and why it was of value and relevance to wider society. And that commitment to public engagement and sharing your science is just the final thing that I want to touch upon today. There's a really famous saying now that science isn't finished until it's communicated. And there's another saying that goes even further than that. It says, science not talked about is science not done. And as science graduates now, your passion and your knowledge are the ideal combination for successful communication within academic circles, of course, in which you are now very well trained, but also importantly outside of those circles too. So if we go back to ocean literacy, that things that I think all of us have really been referring to, what does it actually mean? Well, there's a definition of ocean literacy. The basic definition is that an ocean literate person is someone who understands the influence of the ocean on them and their influence on the ocean. And they're able to make informed and responsible decisions regarding the ocean and its resources. So you can see from that definition that at a basic level of ocean literacy is really a vital attribute for anyone and everyone if we're going to collectively achieve a positive future for us and our planet. Organisations like Dynamic Earth, as well as the Ocean Explorer Centre here at SAMS, we are trying to be accessible, enabling platforms for engagement for this to happen across society. And you now have earned the right to be a trusted voice. And you can now play your part in all the people that you interact with, enabling them to acquire greater levels of ocean literacy. Now, I'd recommend as we do this together, we're honest about what we know, what we don't know, what we can do, what we still need to find out. But your newly acquired qualifications are a license to get out there and talk to people, including politicians, policymakers, and members of the wider public. You can enhance the ocean literacy of everyone you meet. And I keep saying it, but you really can. It's really important. Make that a part of your positive impact as you embark on the next chapter of your life. So that brings my address really to a close. It's time to now go and celebrate, take lots of photos. As I said, I graduated 30 years ago, and looking back at my graduation photos, it's a wonderful experience. So do take lots of photos with all of your friends. Be very, very proud of your achievements today. Really, really be proud of it. Remember what inspired you to get here today and how you can then inspire others to follow in your footsteps. Go out and use the knowledge and the understanding that you have gained during your time here at SAMS to help steward this wonderful planet and, of course, our incredible ocean. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Hermione. I have to admit I was delighted when Hermione agreed to be the keynote speaker for the graduation ceremony today, and even more so when I've heard her speak so passionately about the importance of promoting the science we undertake to the wider community, and from a personal level, someone else who talks passionately about the deep sea. So those of you who've done the deep sea will know what I'm talking about. As a way of appreciation, we have just a small gift for you today, Hermione, and I would like to call forward Gloria to present it to you. Thank you, Gloria.
Unexpected.
So that concludes the ceremony for this afternoon. But before we close proceedings, it's important to recognise the hugely critical engine room that underpins SAM's educational activity. I'm sure that all students and staff will join me in acknowledging the vast amount of work undertaken by Shona, Polly, Anna, Leah, Helen, and Marianne to ensure that our education activity runs as smoothly as it does. Following the graduation procession from the hall, guests are welcome to join us for a reception next door in the drawing room, and I hope that we will see many of you back here this evening at our graduation ceilidh. And so it remains for me to wish our graduates good fortune in your future endeavours.